Please do not drive me away again. Allow me to go to him freely, so that I may return freely.
This is more bitter to me than death.
No, you cannot bind me to you with false feeling. I'm dying here, Father.
That was a scene from the new Daily Wire Plus television series, The Pendragon Cycle, Rise of the Merlin, featuring actor and writer Rose Reid, who plays the pivotal role of Karis, the young mother of Merlin.
In this episode, we sit down in studio with Rose to discuss what drew her to the project, what it was really like behind the scenes, and how she hopes the show will impact the culture. I'm Daily Wire executive editor John Bickley with Georgia Howe. This is a weekend edition of Morning Wire.
Raise your hand if you've been putting off a dental cleaning, an annual checkup, or honestly any kind of doctor's appointment. Yeah, my hand's up too. When something feels off, I usually doom scroll my symptoms or self-diagnose using the World Wide Web while loading up on vitamins, or whatever is in my cabinet at the time. But now, our sponsor ZocDoc is here to help. ZocDoc is a free app and website that helps you find and book high-quality, in-network doctors so you can find someone you love. Whether you're looking for dermatology, dentistry, primary care, eye care, or one of the other 200-plus specialties offered on ZocDoc, you can easily search by specialty or symptom to build the care team that's right for you. View thousands of verified patient reviews to get a real sense of who your doctor is. Then check their real-time availability and book instantly. No phone tag, no waiting around. Stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/wire to find and instantly book a doctor you love today. That's ZocDoc.com/wire. ZocDoc.com/wire. Thanks, ZocDoc, for sponsoring this message.
Joining us now in studio is Rose Reid, one of the stars and writers of the new Daily Wire Plus series, The Pendragon Cycle. Rose, so great to have you in studio. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. It's so cool to get to finally meet you both.
You too, and I'm a little starstruck. I mean, we've got screens all. People don't know this at home, but we have screens all over the office that are just playing Pendragon scenes. So you're all over the place.
Yeah,
here.
that's a little alarming for sure. I was walking through the cafeteria there and was like, oh, that's the bowl sequence. Okay, cool. That's always a little unnerving.
Yeah, here I am injured badly again.
Yeah.
And again and again.
Yeah, it's a little nicer though because I have a very different hair color, so I feel like I'm flying incognito with like slightly darker hair right now. So that makes me feel like I'm one of the cool celebrities with the sunglasses.
Yeah, and built-in protection.
Yeah.
Look, it's an epic series. And I'm curious, I have a bunch of questions for you, but I'm curious what it's like to step back and look at yourself in a series like this. I mean, this is big. You've done a lot of projects. But this one seems like, in terms of scope, maybe the biggest you've worked on, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And what is that like for you? What is it like seeing yourself on the screen in this form?
Well, it's I feel like alarming isn't really the right word to use to say seeing myself on screen in this form, but it's definitely it's a very cool thing. I'm a huge fantasy nerd, and so especially as a writer, I've always wanted to write fantasy. So getting to come on board and not only write but also act in a very high fantasy show has just been really incredible and very daunting. And there were a lot of fears and challenges going into it, but I'm very grateful that I got to be part of it. But still,
Yeah.
There were some growing pains for sure on this one.
You said daunting, and I was, when we first announced internally that we were taking on this project, I personally was like, we're going to pull off a high fantasy series when you have to compete with things like Game of Thrones. Were there fears for you that we're not going to be able to actually do this?
I think I was a little delusional going into it. I was a little, we had Dallas Saunier, who I was like, wow, man, he's such a pro. He's worked with the best and really can create incredible things with very little funding and very little resources, and he can just create a masterpiece. But then I did get to see a little bit of how the sausage was made and be like, oh, okay, there was a lot more work going into creating these masterpieces that were made without the amount of resources that Hollywood typically gets, and the amount of funding that Hollywood typically gets. So that funding was replaced with manpower and creativity, which ultimately was such an incredible experience. And I got to wear more hats than I would have been able to wear otherwise. So I'm very grateful for that. But yes, going into it, I was maybe a little bit more deluded than I am now.
Well, speaking of wearing many hats, I don't know if a lot of viewers know just how many hats you wore. So what were your roles aside from starring?
So I was also a writer on season 1 and a co-producer, which basically just is a fancy term for meaning that because I wrote, I got to have the title co-producer, but I'm also very grateful that Dallas and Jeremy gave me the opportunity to kind of be on the production team and get to learn a little bit about producing. It is a part of the world that I want to step into at some point, so I'm very grateful for that.
You have a writing background, obviously, and you've written on some other projects. What was it like, the writer's room? I remember hearing about this getting constructed, and then you guys would go back into the secret writer's room and all that stuff. What was that process like for you?
It was so cool because I was very young. I still am youngish, but I was very young going into the writer's room and was very new to writing. I'd only written a couple of screenplays before and only had a couple of them produced. And so being a writer on it was another daunting part of the process because I was writing with these incredible writers who had sold so many scripts. And even, one of my mentors in a way, Ryan Whitaker, who I worked with on a project and who wrote one of my favorite screenplays, getting to work with him and kind of be a peer to him around a table was absolutely terrifying. And it took me a while to actually speak up in the room and say, wait, hold on, I have an idea for this. And, I was the only female writer as well. So that was at first a little scary because like I said, all the other men in the room, I was like, you guys all have so many more credits than me. But everyone was really welcoming and in a way that didn't feel like condescending or anything. Being very young, I was expecting that to kind of be part of the process. But no, it was just really, I would go back and do it all over again. It was very stressful because when you work on a project like this, there's a lot of excellence that's demanded of the writers and of everyone on the team. But it was absolutely worth it. I feel like the pressure did really mold us and created us, hopefully, into diamonds. We'll see what viewers think. But yeah, ultimately, it was a great experience, even if it was like very stressful at first.
And it was a tight turnaround, and you guys got on the road quick. What, in terms of the auditioning process, what came first in terms of the writing versus which role particularly you played?
Yeah, that was a very long process, actually, because I was hired as a writer to just be a staff writer in the room. And as we got further into it and the more I learned about the character Karis, the more I really fell in love with her. And the more I started to realize that Dallas Saunier always has a plan and that he had originally said, do you want to act in this show? And I said, no, what I would really like to do is write. And at that point, when he first asked me, I hadn't read the books. I wasn't familiar with the character. And by the time I did read about the character, I ended up kind of falling in love with her. And she's a very unique character. So I really pursued that. And there were discussions of maybe I would play someone else. Maybe it wouldn't be this character. And ultimately, we kind of all landed on her. And I was the one who ended up being like, okay, yes, I really want to play this character. She was very special, and I've never gotten to play a character like her before. So, but yes, writing came first, which was very odd ultimately because you write something being like that poor actress who's going to have to go do that, and then you're the poor actress who has to go do that.
Jump in lakes and jump over bowls and things like that.
Well,
exactly.
Speaking of the jumping over bowls, which we already mentioned, that's an epic scene, and I mean, I think what was going through my mind is like, how did you train physically to get in the shape to do that? How much of the stunts were you? And then, I mean, just to get the physique where it needed to be. I mean, what did you do to prepare?
Yeah, it was a lot of time that went into it, but I'm very grateful that Dallas and the production team and everybody gave me the time and opportunity to do that and gave me the resources I needed to train for that. I was not a track athlete going into this, so I had to learn how to. And the biggest thing Jeremy wanted to make sure happened was that I was able to do as many of the stunts as I could as we needed to make it look realistic on camera, which just meant a lot of running. And he was like, you've just got to be able, like, you
watch
really...
Tom Cruise.
Literally.
That's how you run. Yes.
True. And he actually brought that up a lot, which we did not nail that. But other than that, it's fine.
You did great.
But we did, he really was just like, we're going to you're going to be running a lot on set. We're going to be running a lot in this arena, and you've just got to be able to, have the stamina to do it really. And so that was the main thing that we really focused on, was having the cardio strength to be able to hang in there. And man, I could have run a marathon back then, and now I'm like wheezing after a mile. So we need to maybe get back into that routine a little bit. But that was a really...
So you weren't an athlete going into this?
Not really, no. I mean, I played volleyball, but that's like generous to say that I played volleyball.
What about the horseback riding? You have a farm.
Yes,
right?
I do have a farm. I do have a farm, and this is something I could talk about all day because I love horses. I do have horses. I have 4 of my own. And horses was that aspect of it I was very excited about, and getting to swing up on them and ride bareback in a couple of scenes and stuff like that was so much fun. And just getting to goof around with our horse wrangler. We really had some of the best stunt team horse wranglers that we could have asked for. And that's something else that I really credit to, yes, Dallas, but also just the production in it as a whole, because we brought the best of the best people, from Androsh and Attila, who made the costumes and the wardrobe, to the actors like Daniel Fathers. He was incredible. And the horse team, like everybody truly, truly were the experts in their fields, which just made us all feel very safe, even in situations when, it's very dangerous stunts.
How were the elements in terms of filming locations? You're on top of mountains half the time. How was that? Was it cold? Was it harsh?
Yes, all of the above, but it was also very immersive. And I think that was just what we really had to lean into. I've made this joke several times that, we shot for about 6 months. So we shot in summer, fall, and winter pretty much, bits and pieces of each. And when we were shooting in like the tail end of summer, I was running around in like my frilly dresses, and I was like, this is so great. All the boys are in their furs, and I'm in like I've got sleeveless shirts on, and it's great. And then of course December rolls around, and you're still in your sleeveless, and you're still in your frilly dresses, and the boys still have their furs. The boys are way happier than I was. But it was very immersive. And when you get in the lake and you're meant to be kind of cold and uncomfortable because this guy is kind of, spying on you or whatever, you think he's spying on you, you get to lean into that as a character. When you're, dealing with a very emotional scene in the pouring rain in December, you get to lean into that discomfort and lean into that pain. And being in the mountains of Trentino and being in the wind and everything, and we were shooting in a cloud one day. It was really incredible. Getting to do that, it's so easy to let the cameras fall away and just step into the scene and be the character. So yes, it was not fun sometimes, but it was very good for the characters.
When you do discuss this maybe with friends, what, in terms of the story, what drew you to it the most? What is it? What do you think? What is the most powerful element of this series? I
think that probably second chances. All of the characters, or most of them, experience some form of redemption, and having to, to use a phrase from the show, go back the way you came. And that's true of my character. It's true of James Arden's character, Taliesin. It's true of Merlin. It's true of so many others in the show, that they're given a second chance. And I think that's a really powerful message to me, because I've made plenty of mistakes, and I would love to go back and change them and have the opportunity to move forward without them weighing me down. And so I think that's a beautiful message to be giving people, is that you don't have to keep walking in the direction that you're going. You can make a change. You can have that second chance to right that wrong and be a better person, and all the things, yada yada. But that was the strongest message that I kind of got from the books, is that you can right the wrongs, you can, have that redemption. So yeah, that really spoke to me in the scripts as well.
Okay, so aside from Pendragon, what are your favorites, or what is your favorite?
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I've just recently gotten obsessed with Red Rising, and I am loving these books right now. Harry Potter's also obviously a huge one. I only got interested in Harry Potter actually more recently. I wasn't a huge Harry Potter fan growing up, but growing up it was Star Wars. It was all of the whole Star Wars universe. I was a big Clone Wars girl, and basically any kind of Star Wars spinoff I was obsessed with. I just think it's so interesting, the other languages and coming up with rules and cultures and how does this, and often they are, unintentionally metaphors for our societies and stuff. So I think it's so interesting. Also Dune. I love Dune.
Dune's incredible.
Dune's incredible. Have you read the books?
Yes.
Yeah.
Dune, the first Dune, is the best sci-fi book of all time.
It's so good. How'd you feel about the second movie? Which one's better, Dune 1 or Dune 2?
Dune 1. The reason I think this is, no one's going to want to hear this.
Hot take.
The problem with Dune is the worldview that takes over, that is built in from the beginning, is very dark and very fatalistic. And so you realize it more and more as you watch that movie. So the second movie, you're realizing, oh my gosh, where this is going is very dark. It's not what you think. It's not a Judeo-Christian exact perspective. It's not a good perspective on a Messiah. So that's true of the entire series. So I've read all of them, and they get kind of darker and darker. So I love that I can have some hope and optimism in the first one.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that's so fair. I think. Yeah, my hot take is that's why I love Dune 2, is because I think I love a good anti-hero. I don't know, I'm going to really out myself here, but I don't know if you guys have seen Attack on Titan, but it's an anime, and it is.
I have watched half of that, yeah.
Yeah, it's the same kind of thing where it's like it goes down a dark path, but I think I think the dark ones are the most beautiful though, because they touch a part of your soul that you didn't think anybody else saw, and there's something in that being seen. And I do think that's part of Merlin's story in the Pendragon Cycle, is that he goes to some dark places. And I think that there's something about showing those dark places that he goes to that really makes people feel seen. And so that's part of the reason I don't know. I like Dune too.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. I do think part of the reason the Daily Wire and Jeremy Boring is drawn to things that he feels and we feel are true to life, true to human psychology, resonate with people, are not rose-colored glasses, are not, putting a little beautiful shine on something that actually is dull and dark, And I think this series does that. And in terms of adding to the canon, so the follow-up question to the sort of bigger picture, you love fantasy. Do you feel like this book series and this TV series adds to the fantasy series, fantasy sort of canon in any significant way?
I think so, because I think that, you're taking, in a lot of ways, it's historical fantasy, which I think that we don't see a ton of. So yes, I think that I hope, if I can, be a little grandiose, I hope that it does contribute. I love the historical aspect of it, that these ideas that these myths are true. I think that that's something that I really was drawn to about this, and I'm sure that this is something that some people will struggle with, but I loved that we portrayed some of the old gods of I thought that was so cool to portray them, and the designs that our special effects artist did, just from a creative standpoint, they were incredible.
It's beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, just really spectacular. So I think that just from a historical fantasy standpoint, I hope so. I think that if nothing else, I think that we created something that did feel very authentic and did feel very gritty, as you said, that doesn't cast any rose-colored glasses on things. But I also think that we did it excellently. And yes, of course, there are things that I watch, especially in my performance or whatever, and I'm like, oh man, I wish I would have, or I wish I wouldn't have written that line that way, or whatever it was. There's plenty of things that you always think you can do better. But as a whole, I'm so proud of this team, and I'm so proud of the producers who pulled it off, and the production quality and the performances that fingers crossed. I hope it becomes somewhat canon.
We do too, and I think it will. It really is amazing. I'm excited for people to see it. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you both so much.
That was Rose Reid, one of the stars and writers of the new Daily Wire Plus series, The Pendragon Cycle, Rise of the Merlin, available now on the Daily Wire's website and app. And this has been a weekend edition of Morning Wire.